Hello, my name is Katie Lang. I'm the program coordinator and collections manager here at Mahaffie Stagecoach Stop and Farm in Olathe, Kansas. Here at Mahaffie, we are charged with telling the story of the Mahaffie family who came to Kansas in the 1860s. We share stories of life on a farm and a stagecoach stop right after the Civil War. We are also entrusted by our community with the care of many historic objects. Do you have precious family heirlooms that you preserve? How do you decide what you're going to save and what has to be given away? Here at Mahaffie, we use a document called our Scope of Collections to help us decide what fits the Mahaffie story that we are trying to tell. One of the criteria that we use for determining objects that will fit our collection, the first point is we collect items that have to do with stagecoach travel and travel on the overland trails in this 1860s time period. So I have here a grease bucket. It looks like a baby butter churn, doesn't it? It has a lid, it has a stick coming out of the middle, but this hung underneath a wagon as it was heading west, for example, and was filled with a grease made out of tallow and resin and oils, and it would be smeared onto axles and other metal bits as wagons headed west. Our Scope of Collections document also tells us that we can collect objects that have to do with daily life between 1850 and 1875. Check out this video about a very unique object in our collection.
One of the really exciting objects we have here today is a laundry sprinkler. You know that steam button on your iron? Before the steam button, laundry sprinklers were used to add moisture to things you were ironing. So this original laundry sprinkler has a hole in the end of the handle, and there's a cap that fits on there. You fill it with water, and then the holes on top of the laundry sprinkler allow the water to come out onto whatever you're ironing. Obviously, we don't want to use this really cool historic item in our interpretation. So we found a tinsmith to make us a reproduction. This is made out of tin, like the original, has the domed top with the holes, a hollow handle for filling it with water, and we can use this in our summer programming.
Our Scope of Collections document says we also collect things that are directly related to the Mahaffie family. This particular object hasn't been on display in over 15 years in order to best preserve it for the future. It lives right in this box. Are you ready to see it?
One of the most precious objects in our museum collection is this quilt, which we think was made by Mrs. Lucinda Mahaffie in the 19th century. We received it as a gift from Lucinda's great-granddaughter, Mrs. Isabel McIlwain, in 1983. You can see the fabulous sunflower quilting design, the various blue and what were pink fabrics in this area. Can you imagine the amount of time this took Mrs. Mahaffie to quilt? We are very fortunate to have a reproduction of Mrs. Mahaffie's quilt made by a well-known local quilter, Donna Frenzel. You can see the same sunflower design, a very similar dark blue fabric, as well as the pink striped fabric, which has worn away in Mrs. Mahaffie's original quilt. If you have a precious family heirloom that you are caring for, be sure to keep it in a cool, dry area away from direct sunlight. There are things that we can do to extend the life of our precious family heirlooms, but do know that by the way things were made in the 19th century, sometimes there aren't there's nothing we can do to best preserve our family items. So in the case of this particular quilt, the dyes and the mordants that were used to set the pink fabric especially have eaten away at the fibers. As stewards of this quilt here at Mahaffie, we do our best to preserve it for future generations, but we love having reproductions as well, so that when you come to see us, you can see what Mrs. Mahaffie's quilt looked like when it was first made.
The last point on our Scope of Collections document says that we collect modern reproductions of 19th century objects, like this reproduction rawhide money bag, or the tin laundry sprinkler that you saw, or the reproduction of Lucinda's quilt. Those objects are here for you to touch, to see how they're made and how they were used, to help you better understand what life was like in the 19th century. We look forward to seeing you back at Mahaffie on June 1st, so you can hear the stories of the Mahaffie family and their farm and their stagecoach stop right here on the Santa Fe Trail. Visit mahaffie.org for more details.